Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We are here for another week of Overwatch League. This is week number 2 for the Summer Showdown. Before we get into the pick'ems for the week, we are going to have to talk about some news. Things have been kind of crazy. A lot of people are nervous now about the future of Overwatch League, questioning the management of all the teams. And I think that there is a lot to talk about there. There's a lot of concern, that I have as well. But we're not going to dive too far into that. I think we're going to either make a separate video about that soon or when a little more comes out about some stuff. The problem with Overwatch League is we have so many people, that are from different regions. There's so many different facets that have been, kind of clumped together. Also, we don't have any public information, in terms of contracts, the years, the money, a lot of things like that. With professional sports, we know what their contracts are, and obviously, this is a smaller scale, as it pertains to esports. But the fact that we have so little information about what's going on, in terms of the owners, the process, whatever goes on with the Overwatch League as it pertains to anything, that it's really hard to say. But, it definitely is worrying. The fact that the prize pools have shrunk so much. And I do think that all this stems from the prize pools, especially, stem from the lack of sponsors. The loss of all the sponsors last year, when the Activision Blizzard scandal broke, has been devastating, as I think a lot of us thought it would be, and it still is to this day. So hopefully, when Overwatch 2 officially releases, maybe after a little bit of time, we're able to get some sponsors back. But for right now, I think the league is in some trouble, and there's a lot of teams that are kind of imploding a little bit. So we're gonna go through those right now. First of all, we got Paris. We got to talk about Paris first. They have done a bit of an overhaul of their roster, and theirs isn't as crazy as the team that's coming up that we're gonna talk about, but they did drop 4 of their players, Don and Khan. They're the tank and support duo. They are gone. Vestola, their other tank, their off-tank player, he is gone, as well as Dredro, their other support player. So they have wiped their tanks and their backline. They retained Wub and Dove. And now, when we look at the roster here, they've added 4 new players. So, a six-man team, 3 DPS, 2 supports, and 1 tank. So they brought in, albeit very successful, ladder grinders and contenders players for a long time. Rack Attack, Melthil, and Luke Mino have been grinding and doing a lot. Same thing with Crawley. So I'm excited for them. Luke Mino is one that I'm really excited to see in action. He's really, really good. One of the best BAPs, I think, in the world. Really good on the Zen as well. So we'll see what they can do. Rock Attack, a Brig and Mercy specialist. So we'll see what they can bring to the table. I still don't have high hopes for them because they don't have a really good hit scan. Melthal's gonna have to be just cracked on the Sojourn because they've tried Wub on it, they've tried Dove on it. It's just not it. They've been getting smacked around. So, hopefully this alleviates some of the struggles for Paris. Best of luck to the players that have been released. Hopefully they can find their way back if that is their desire into the league. Because I really do think that all of them have, good ability. Just did not work out with this current Paris team. Also, Houston, they have let go of Piggy. Sad days. One of the best friends of Pelican. I know we talked about the story that broke that, maybe they were trying to shop him and Pelican, and Iris. Hasn't quite happened yet. They did sign Doge, a tank player, and Lep, a support player. And they did lose to New York, but then they pulled off a huge upset of the Gladiators. So, we'll see what happens with Houston. Pelican was back playing, doing pretty well. We have not seen Iris as much, with Lep brought in. So we'll see how that whole situation shakes up. But hopefully Piggy is able to join a team soon, because he's a very, very good player. And then we get to, of course, the granddaddy of all the issues. We're looking at the Washington Justice. So they kind of blew it up, and they are going through some tough times. We've heard a lot of rumblings and rumors about Justice. This has long been, they're the talented team that underperforms. It's just been that way for a couple of seasons. Ever since they got to K, they've been quite hyped, and they had the one good playoff run, but that was it. So for Justice, this active roster is not accurate anymore. They have 5 players now. Vigilante is gone. Mag is gone. Happy is gone. So Mag is heading to Boston. They bought him from the Justice, and a lot of people are saying that Justice, they ran out of money. They're flat broke. They don't really know what to do. Plus, they're middle of the road record. They nearly beat Shock. They got reverse swept, but they were up 2-0 just a week ago. But now, Mag, who looked really good on the Junker Queen, by the way, he was one of the Junker Queens that really popped to me. But he's gone. It is now all on Kalios. He is their only tank player. With Happy gone, it's all Assassin and Decay now. And with Vigilante gone, it's all Krillin and Opener. So, these are 3 of their better players. Happy is nuts. Mag is great. Vigilante showed some really nice flashes, since his debut, which was not long ago. So, you're losing 3 extremely good players. Yes, you still have Decay. Assassin is a good player. Kalios has had some success before. Opener and Krillin, I think can do some nice things, but this isn't a team that's really going to go anywhere, I think. And it looks pretty clear cut as okay, we need to go as absolutely bare bones as possible, because we probably just can't pay everybody. So, big ups to the teams that snagged, some of these players. Gladiators grabbing Happy as a 4th DPS, pretty interesting. And Mag going to, Boston. They had really struggled when they played the main tank heroes. Punk has been really good, but him and Mag have a very different hero pool. So I think it's a great pickup for Boston. It's going to give them some more versatility, because we talked about it a couple of videos ago. Their map record with Punk in versus Punk out, very, 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 very different. They did not win if Punk wasn't in. Punk, they win some, they lose some. Without him, it's terrible. So Washington kind of blowing it up. This feels like the end of, kind of the end of this team. And I am pretty sure that, Decay is, if he stays in Overwatch next season, he's probably going to be playing elsewhere, going to get a big contract from somebody, while Washington just kind of, tries to reassess and figure out what the heck they're doing. But in any case, those were some of the roster changes that have been made in this past week. We won't take any more time before we get into our predictions. And we're pretty much just going to whip through them today. We got East Region back in action, so we're going to see a lot of Overwatch this weekend. And we'll see how the East Region kind of deals with this new meta. If they play as much Junker Queen as the West did, pretty much purely play Junker Queen. And we'll see if the lower teams have as much of a punching chance as some of the higher teams, as we saw in the West. With Gladiators and Reign going winless is pretty crazy. Shock nearly going down. But in any case, first off, we do have the Guangzhou Charge versus Shanghai. I do not see an upset here. I have a feeling the Charge will take 1 for some reason, but it's a pretty easy win in the end for Shanghai. I don't see them having many issues with this meta. I think that they will be quite good, as they usually are. We have an interesting one next with the Hangzhou Spark taking on the Seoul Dynasty. Now, again, we had 2 of the better teams here. The Spark had a decent run. Seoul had a very disappointing run in the mid-season madness. Spark had a nice little run, but were cut down a little short by the Fusion. The Gladiators and then the Fusion eliminated them. So, 2 good teams, pretty evenly matched. I give the edge to the Dynasty here. I think it's 3-1. I think we're going to see a nice little bounce back from them. The the firepower that they have, I think, is just a little bit more well-rounded than the Hanjo Spark. And I think that they're going to adapt to the Junker Queen a little bit more effectively. Seoul back in action again. Next match. It's kind of the next day. They're the first match after being the last match of the previous day. They got the Chengdu Hunters. So Hunters, kind of up and down, made a nice little run in the midseason madness to try to get into the tournament. Couldn't quite make it past Philadelphia, but here we are. Seoul versus Hunters. We're gonna go for an upset here. I've struggled with the East. My pick'ems have really hurt in the East. With the West, I'm up there. I'm doing pretty darn well most weeks, getting a lot of points, but the East has struggled. I haven't been quite predicting the upsets right, and I've been missing them in both ways. When I pick upsets, they don't happen, and then, when I pick the favorite team, it's, sometimes they go down a little bit later. So I have a feeling about the Hunters here. I think they go up 3-2. This is I think this is going to be a good meta for them. They'll be able to get it nice and aggressive. It's harder to have people go down really early in fights, and I think that, as it gets more chaotic, more spread out, the Sojourns are doing their thing at distance while everyone else kind of brawls, Lucios are dunking in and out. I think that they're going to have a little bit of an edge here and pull off an upset. Dragons and Spark next. So, again, another interesting one with two of the better teams matching up. I'm going to go Spark here, 3-1. I think they get a nice little bounce back from their Dynasty game. And Shanghai have looked a little shaky sometimes coming out in a new stage. So I got the Spark taking this one down. Maybe some big plays from Gushui on the Junker Queen potentially. Next, you got Philadelphia Fusion taking on Los Angeles Valiant. We are going to go with the Fusion here. We're going to say 3-1. Valiant, they've looked pretty solid. They also made a little bit of a run at the midseason madness, getting a couple of wins in, but they were pretty far in the hole. But they've been a lot more competitive this season. I do think in this case, Philly is just pretty much too good. Between MN3 and Zest, this meta is still very, very well suited for the heroes that they like, and that's going to make Philadelphia a very good team in this meta. Then we got Valiant in Charge. This one goes down to the wire, two of the lower teams here, but I got the Valiant taking it down 3-2. Charge just haven't really impressed me too much, and the Valiant have had some nice, runs and streaks, and I think that they get a very important victory. With the reset, it is starting out fresh. These 6 games are all that matters for this tournament. Obviously, for the overall standings, it's still important what's happened in the other tournaments, but very important for some of these teams who haven't been making these tournaments to get off to a good start and give themselves a chance to make it in. And next, you got Philadelphia Fusion taking on the Chengdu Hunters. I think this one is pretty close, but we're gonna go big brain 3-1 Philly. Oh, I didn't predict any 3-0s. There we go, 3-0. That's kind of nerve-wracking. So we're gonna say 3-1. It's just kind of hard to say, coming out with with the new tweaked meta, new character and all that. But I do think that we're gonna see some sloppiness. We're gonna see some teams that are kind of trying to figure out, and usually that's going to lend to the teams flip-flopping a couple of maps, and it being pretty darn close. But I do have, like I said, Philly taking down Hunters for a double point match. And now rolling into the West. Vancouver Titans versus New York Excelsior. So Vancouver finally got that first win. Breadstick has been acquired, taking down the Paris Eternal. New York, pretty solid this stage. They got a nice win over Houston. Got off to a nice little start against Dallas, then Dallas really kind of pulled them back and took that one down. But a 1-1 start, nothing to scoff at for either of these teams. Whoever wins this, you're going to be 2-1. You're going to be fighting for one of those spots to make it in, which is, it is very, very important for these teams who came into this stage with 0 wins for Vancouver and only 2 for New York. So they gotta start winning and start getting that momentum. And while I think it's back and forth, I actually like Vancouver here. I think they take it down in 5. Honestly, they look pretty solid with the new acquisitions in. New York just looks inconsistent to me. Their highs look pretty high in this meta. the lows, it's not really there. There are times when they really struggle with just the front line and space creating. There were multiple times when Hanbin was just 30% above Hanbin, in a fight or two. And yeah, Kellen was above, Hanbin was above Kellen in a lot of those fights. And I just don't think that New York is quite good enough at not playing the Junker Queen. I don't want to put it on Kellen, but fully supporting her and making sure that their neutral fights are really good. When they get ults, they can really go on a tear, and snowball. They did it a couple of times to Dallas, but then when they get stopped, they really seem to struggle. And when the ult cycling just gets a little bit off, they're just a weaker team, and I think Vancouver is a little more well-rounded as we speak now. Next, you got Boston, maybe putting in Mag, getting him in there, taking on the Shock. Shock's still undefeated. We got Boston, getting a nice win over Atlanta, but then losing immediately afterwards their next match. So to London, so a little back and forth for them. I'm going to give them a map, but I think San Francisco takes it down, stays undefeated. Toronto Defiant off to a really nice start, and Dallas Fuel also off to a really nice start. They're playing each other. Dallas looks really solid. I think that this is the time they make their return. It's a very brawly comp. Even though they weren't really a GOATS team, funny enough, they had their run of dominance was right after GOATS. But I still think that they're going to do really well. They've looked really good out the gate. Snagging 2 quality wins. And I think that they take down Toronto in a super entertaining back and forth match. And you got Houston, who I can't really quite figure them out yet, against Spitfire. Again, Spitfire, really bad debut, but then they did beat Boston. I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to say Houston just sweeps them off just get them out. Just sweeps them out of the match right away. They look really good in spots. Obviously coming back from reverse sweep for the Gladiators, pretty darn impressive. But what really, really impressed me about them is how well the newcomers, came in and just contributed. Lep and Doge, both played really well. They do have Doge and Dante doing a little bit of rotating around. But this is a very solid team, and I think they're only going to get stronger as we move forward. So I got Houston taking that one in a blowout. Match of the week, of course. Next, we got a rematch of the finals for the Midseason Madness. Los Angeles Gladiators, San Francisco Shock. Shock in 5. They look more comfortable in this meta. People have come out and Reiner was complaining about the meta. Not a big deal to me. It was a pretty minor complaint. It didn't seem like too much whining to me or anything like that. Some people have metas they love, and some people have metas that they don't love as much. But Gladiators are still a great team. They're putting Happy, trying to get Happy into this lineup. It'll be interesting to see if he plays at all. In their upcoming matches this week. But in a matchup between two great teams, San Francisco just looks a little stronger right now in this meta. And this is very important, because if Gladiators do lose this match and they go to 0-3, they will be in jeopardy of missing this tournament. Which would be crazy coming from the two-time defending champs of the last 2 monthly tournaments. So it would be wild if they go down 0-3 and are in danger of getting knocked out. But they've lost their first 2 matches 2-3, so their map differential isn't bad. They still have a shot here, but they're going to have to climb a very tall task in defeating the Shock, which I don't think they do this time. Next, it's Florida versus Washington. I don't really know what's going on with Washington. I'll give them a map, but I think Florida's just a little more solid right now. Kind of got smacked by San Francisco a little bit, but looked good in their first match, so I got them taking that one down. Boston versus Dallas. We are going to go Dallas. I don't feel like I have enough 3-0s, so we're going to say that Dallas just gives a little clean sweep go there. Paris Eternal versus Atlanta Reign. So Atlanta off to a bit of a rocky start, dropping their first 2 matches. But I do think that they're still good enough to take down Paris here. Paris, like I said, I like the acquisitions. I don't think they're quite ready to take down a team like Atlanta yet, even in, so far, a weaker meta for the Reign. And then Gladiators versus Toronto. So this is an interesting one. You know, you would think, oh, just Gladiators, easy. But, you know, Toronto, you know, they've been pretty good. Especially, you know, in the first week of this meta. That being said, I am going to go with the Gladiators. If they're 0-3, their backs are going to be to the wall. You know, even if they're 1-2, you know, you got some work to do. So while Toronto looks, you know, quite solid in this meta, you know, Hisu, you know, really rocking the Ashe pick. You know, some people have questioned the Ashe pick against the Sojourn, but he's been really, really good. You know, and this is just a very solid team, you know, that I think I and, you know, a decent amount of other people have been high on for a while. But this is the Gladiators that we're talking about, and I think that, you know, with a week, we've seen that they're able to really digest, you know, download information. The coaching staff is really good, you know, at making adjustments, and I think that they bounce back and take down the Defiant in a good match, though. So, there are the predictions for the week. I know this is probably a very long video because of the news at the start, so I won't do a super long outro. As always, thank you very much for watching. Have yourselves a wonderful weekend. Watch a bunch of Overwatch League. And as always, I will see y'all in the next one.